Something that happened in our industry, as some of you don't even know there was such a thing as white wall tires. But there was a time that all cars had white wall tires. And we used to measure that, and pretty soon, well, we don't have to worry about that. And one time I was a year without measuring how many white wall tires we were selling. And I realized when I looked at the end of the year and I went back from that year, I said, it's like half. So what's the downside? The downside is I was still carrying in stock in my inventory that same number of tire. If say I was selling 2,000 a year, now I'm selling 1,000. I had 1,000 tires I didn't need in my inventory, and that's money. So there's some of your measurements are for things like that, and as I touched earlier, whether it's payroll, knowing what hours I need to work people, and we want them at the time that the customer's there, not just standing around waiting for the customer to show up. Yeah.
And let's talk a little bit about the call center and how the measuring, that's a great example, you know, when to have people there, when to have fewer people there, that sort of thing. So the intro is, the measurements really applied very nicely to our call center.
Yeah. Another measurement area was our call center. When I started the call center, I had some other businesses, but I knew of no tire business that had a call center, so I really didn't know what I should be measuring or not measuring. But what became apparent after a while was how many people I needed to man the call center, and that would depend on the number of calls coming in. And so we started measuring, and of course you can get it in a software system now that tells you how many calls are happening by the hour. And so we would open a call center with one person in the first hour, and by the middle of the day we might have 5. But if we'd have had 5 from the beginning of the day all the way through, it would have been a huge waste of money. So we would do our scheduling, and if we hadn't had good measurements, we wouldn't have been able to properly manage the call center. The call center too was such an important part of our success, I feel, because just questions. It wasn't selling over the phone. A lot of people take the call centers to sell. We took the approach, which gets off track here a little bit, was to explain our hours, our pricing, just answer questions. But when that phone call came and you didn't want people, you sometimes get on some of these deals. When I applied for Social Security a few years ago, I spent most of the day being on hold, trying to talk to the government workers out there. I'm not trying to pick on them, but I mean, if I'd have done that in free enterprise system, that I would have hurt my business, not helped it. Yeah.
What was I thinking? Call center.
The profit center part are sharing profits. I think I've touched that probably, but it's the juice. It's not the answer, but it's the juice to the answer, it seems to me.
Okay,
If there's a way to say that, probably.
Yeah. Another thought about data, information.
Yeah.
And differentiating between what's useful and what's not useful. I mean, there's just a ton of data now that you can get to. A lot of it, some of it's really important, some of it not at all.
Right.
And you know, you haven't been in it for a couple years, but I mean, you had different report. You had certain reports you looked at that you valued, that told you things that. You know, I mean, you got to know what to pay attention to. So intro is there's a lot of information. You have to know what to pay attention to and what not to.
In business, at least in the retail business, service business, the number one expense you have is payroll. That being said, the more you could manage that, the better job you could do in controlling it, if you will. And so we would measure we would measure regular time, overtime, time they started, time they stopped, what days. Some days were more than others. We were open 6 days a week. We always had to have ample employees, but without measuring, it was very easy to be short-handed some days and too many on other days versus we knew what days it was. And then was by certain monitoring this, how many hours was an ample deal. We watched overtime. We didn't feel that people could make the kind of money they needed to do to pay their bills without some overtime. What was an ample amount of overtime to do this? And by measuring, we'd find if it got a little shy, you'd end up pretty soon you got grumbling going on. I'm not making the kind of money that I would like to. And you could have still kept them with another hour or two of overtime. That was a measurement concept. So we would constantly try to watch all parts of the payroll. And then in the measurement, of course, which is a side issue, trying to find out from other people in our industry how they were handling it and what was a good number. And we prided ourselves that our payroll was lean, but our employees were well paid, but we had no one on the payroll that wasn't necessary.